Always have safe practices. Bienvenido, welcome again. Buenos días, buenos tardes, buenos noches, niñas, mama, papa, tío, tía, abuelo, abuela. Welcome everybody. So girls, we are looking at our second lesson on the Port of Spain waterfront. I hope you have your rulers with you, your 1 centimeter paper with you. If you don't have it, it will just be a little difficult, but I would really like you to have it, or also you need to have your rulers. All right, let us screen share now. All right, so we are looking at the second part of our model of the Port of Spain waterfront. Now, did you know that Port of Spain and the environments all around, there were lots and lots of silk cotton trees. It was also known as the place of the silk cotton trees by the Amerindians. So before all this development take place, this extensive development, the settlements were run by the Amerindians. There were no concrete buildings, it was all thatch roofs. And the Amerindians, what they would do in that area that we know as Port of Spain, it was also filled with mangrove. They would go in their little canoes and they would travel across to Venezuela or up to neighboring Caribbean islands, a chain of Caribbean islands, and come through Trinidad. It was always a port. It was where fishermen and hunters would ply their trade, right? And they would exchange goods and services. So the Amerindians who lived there, that area was called Kumacarapo. I'm sure you hear that name and what comes to your mind, Mukarapu. So even though it's not the exact space, but a little lower down, right? In that Port of Spain and environments, it was called that. All right. Now, in memory of our Amerindian past and in honoring them, because the Amerindians, they were lovers of life, lovers of nature. They really appreciated nature. They lived in balance with it. And Carlisle Chang, our local artist, an artist from Trinidad, formerly, he's now deceased. He did these 2 murals which reflect our past, right? In another lesson, we would look at the artwork of our Amerindians. In City Hall, there is a concrete structure. Next time when you go into Port of Spain, I want you to go into City Hall and I want you to really look at this. This is a Conquerabera, right? And also, if you're going up to the Hyatt, if you're going up to the waterfront and the tactile buildings, whilst you're walking on Independence Square, also known as Marine Square, you would see this there. Now, it's very ironic. You'll be walking up Independence Square to see that. Do you know from Independence Square to the waterfront, there was water. It was reclaimed land. All right. So look at how far we have come, right? From this simple art form, simple lifestyle to Port of Spain as we know it today. So when Christopher Columbus came and colonization took place, the land got reclaimed, the thatch huts and the silk cotton trees were a lot of them were removed and the buildings started to come up. So no longer were there canoes, but big ships bringing in goods and services, business happening right here. Okay, now Port of Spain was not the initial capital. The first capital was St. Joseph. So our school where we are, that's our first capital. Later on, Port of Spain got developed. All right. This is Port of Spain as we know it now. As you can see, we have now, the landscape has certainly changed. The land has been reclaimed, right? And the silk cotton trees have been removed by buildings, all right? There's even talk, Trinidadians will say that is why there's always flooding in Port of Spain, because the natural course of how Port of Spain was, things were diverted, land was filled, and hence we have the problem of flooding. I don't know, one of you, maybe you will become an engineer and you can help solve this problem, but understanding our past help us understand the present. All right? This man, this is Dr. Eric Williams. He was our first prime minister, and in honor of him, we Trinidad was proud to be the first island in the Caribbean to have skyscrapers. At that time, it was known as a skyscraper. And I say at that time because later on we will learn of other buildings, okay? So these buildings started in 1979. All right, it finished in 1986. They are 22 stories high, and a man by the name of Anthony C. Lewis, partnership architect, he designed these buildings. So a child like you, he learns basic concepts, and that is what we're going to do today. Dr. Eric Williams was he's called the father of the nation, and one of his tenets was he believed that the education lies in the youths, you, and your education is in your school bag. But look how things have turned. Your education is now in your device and how you use it. Okay? So, Anthony Lewis, he designed these buildings, but what is amazing about these buildings were made to resist earthquakes. The design of the building is basically a cuboid, but you see these frames here, these metal frames, these frames are meant to hold the building together in the event that there is an earthquake. And below both buildings, way down in the basement, is water. So the building is really floating. I can't conceive, I would love to see the drawing plans. How could the buildings there are water reservoirs below here and still hold the building upright. So they said when, if there is a severe earthquake, the building, yes, it will shake, but it will always remain upright. Okay? Now this building, both buildings are identical. And some of you might say, but miss, sometimes when we're driving down, one looks smaller, one looks shorter than the other. They are exactly the same height. It's called perspective. It's the way you look at something. Sometimes you might see something, and the way you are angled, it looks, so from this angle, it looks like one building is taller than the other. It's not so. Both buildings are the same height, and they are 92 meters. To get a gist of how much is 92 meters, if you open your hands, both sides, your hands width is approximately a meter. The 92 of your hand widths are the length, the height of these two buildings. These buildings are 22 stories high. Now, in this building, it's a financial complex. It's where business and money matters take place, stock exchange. It's also the home of the central bank, right? The central bank is where our country's money is, our country's gold. It is also a place of, besides business, entertainment, because here at the bottom here, we have our auditorium where very plays and different sorts of and shows, they take place, right? It's a very prestigious place to go. All right, now let's get on to this. Our next lesson, we will be looking at the Hyatt, Tower C, and Tower D. So remember that we will be looking at this in our next lesson. All right. So we must thank Mr. Hassan Boyo for his fantastic picture. When I saw this picture, I remember the feeling of when I wanted to go to Tobago. And as the boat slowly left the harbor, I remember the exciting feeling of leaving my beloved home and going to my sister home. And I remember too on our way back, that safe haven. So Trinidad, this port is a harbor for many cruise ships. When they come here, they get that feeling. Visitors, when they come in here, they know they have entered the gateway of Port of Spain. It is also the gateway for trade. So we have these little ships here. We have these big ships here. All these either came from other Caribbean islands, from Venezuela, and in it, cargo will come and they will offload these things and they will go to different businesses. This is our commercial center. So this is where it comes. This is one of the ports in which it happens, right? Now, we are looking at the Twin Towers, and the Twin Towers are cuboids. And if you look at the cuboid, right, you would see there are one, two, three, four long rectangular faces, and they're basically the same. And we have two square faces on either end. Girls, I want you to remember that. Now, some of you will say, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Girls, you can. All right? And I want you to always remember, anytime you get that feeling, you say, I can do all things with Christ who strengthens me. Now notice all the rectangles are the same, and on the top and the bottom, we have squares. Remember that, okay? In our last lesson, remember we painted the background. The background consisted of a wash of a sky, our mountains in one half, and the other half was the sea. So for those of you who not maybe a little confused, this is your whole, right? And if I fold the paper in half, both of them are going to be the same. Next, I want you to get a box. I want you to cut it in such a way that your paper can fit into it. I had a little bit excess here, which I eventually cut off because I don't want that to look. But I want the box to be able to hold the top half, which is the mountain and the sky, and the bottom half, which is the sea. Now, we will use the 1 centimeter square paper. I'm sure you have this, right? If you don't have it, well then you can use a ruler, right? But why I want you to use this, because it helps you. You can measure just by counting the blocks, right? Also by placing, so we used toilet paper roll, which I cut in half, remember? You take the whole thing, cut it in half, all right? So two of them are the same because we are doing twin towers, right? Now the area of this will pick up 7 centimeters up, 7 centimeter across. The area is the space, all right? But the measurement, length by breadth is 7. Similarly, length by breadth is 7 centimeters. Now a toilet paper roll is about 10 centimeters. So I measured, okay? And then I placed it down on the grid paper so that I can see that it fit. The first thing I did was fold it in half, and then I used a marker and I drew the line. Then I fold it in quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I used a little tape and stuck it. That is the skeleton for my twin towers. You see, I got it too. Look, my lines are showing me to guide me. Now, we are not finished yet, we have now started. I need to understand what this net is. So I need to get colored paper. I did not have colored paper, but I painted it. I liked the color of the building, the glass of the Twin Towers. It looks sort of blue-black. So I did use blue and black to paint my paper. Can you see that? It's blue-black. Then I placed it on my grid paper. I also used my ruler, right? So with it, I was able to measure 2 centimeters here. This here is 7 centimeters. You need to leave a little excess below. I measured 2 centimeters up here, 2 centimeters here, 2 centimeters here. This is my square. When you measure across, remember I told you the first part, it must be 7 centimeters down and 7 centimeters across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I left a little excess across. Okay, I also left a little excess down here. The excess is very, very important. Let me show you why. With your excess, you will be able to cover the skeleton completely. Another thing and so you can see the excess happening here, right? The excess is what will keep the parts together. When you're wrapping it around the skeleton, use your fingers. So I used my thumb and my pointer and I squeezed out my edges. I squeezed out the edges of the cube. I also measured, I drew 2 strips, right? This is half a centimeter, and I made my X's, cut it out, and I put it on my skeleton. Then I put my square, which is 2 centimeters around, right? I can still use the blocks here to help me, like this. You count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. There is your block. That is your area, right? And I measure with my paper. Okay? So remember to pinch it so it stays neatly. There you go. So now I am looking. I have my twin towers. I'm placing it. I looked at my image. The twin towers are on the extreme right. Proudly, I place it down. It may be a little bouncy, probably because of the waves. All right. So that there ends my second part of the waterfront. In our next lesson, we are focusing on this. This, girls, is what you call 3D work. All right. This here, the background was one-dimensional. It's flat. All right. This here is three-dimensional. So it rests on El Golfo de Paria, right? The Gulf of Paria. Remember, our waterfront is really reclaimed land. It was not originally there. It's land that they got elsewhere and they filled up this area. All right? All right. In our next lesson, we will be looking at Trinidad waterfront, the Hyatt, Tower C, and Tower D. It is going to be a 3D model. All right. I am thinking we can use toilet paper rolls, 2 toilet paper rolls. And if you have a narrow long box, we can use that. Also, I'm just going to give you a peek. Do you know that Tower C and Tower D is the reason why the Twin Towers is no longer the tallest tower? So I want you to look and research and find out how high are these towers. So now, so up until 1986, the Twin Towers were the tallest buildings in Trinidad and in the Caribbean. Later on, these buildings changed that story. And that is a lesson for us girls. Nothing stays the same. Nothing stays the same, girls. But do you know what stays the same? God. God stays the same. God is the same yesterday, right? God is the same tomorrow. God is the same forever. We just have to trust and believe in Him. And this project, you can do it. I love God, and God loves me. Therefore, I can love everybody. And just like Carlisle Chang, who, appreciated what the Amerindians did and what they brought to our country, our culture, and also Anthony Lewis, he was able to come up with an idea and a concept, and there we go. We have Twin Towers. No longer do we have the silk cotton trees. I don't think all are, well, most are gone, but we still have some there to tell us the story. And now our enormous silk cotton trees are replaced by buildings. That is change and evolving. So, girls, I want you to take this lesson. I want you to enjoy this lesson. I want you to use your ruler, use your 1 centimeter paper. I want you to go over your net of a cube and apply. I look forward to your models, and our next lesson we'll be tackling the other buildings. So I have to go now to another class. Remember, girls, safe practices. Washing your hand is very, very, very important, especially when you're leaving the confines of your home or in a safe environment. Once you're going outside, you make sure that you always wear your mask, all right? And wash your hands. Adios.